Okay, welcome to 0.4, the last of our Unit 0 lessons. There's no test on any of the material in Unit 0. It's just the stuff you need to know to do Algebra 1. So evaluate these expressions. Hopefully we know that that is a way to write 5 times 8. Okay, anytime you don't see an operation in math, you don't see add, subtract, multiply, or divide, you are multiplying. And what is the rule here? Well, you do all your multiplying and dividing before any adding or subtracting. So this one is 42. And this other one next to it is also 42. You have to multiply before you do any adding, right? Multiplying and dividing. Some of you had teachers who called it PEMDAS, but we don't really use that much anymore because students think that multiplying comes before dividing. It does not. Multiplying and dividing are tied. Okay, but all multiplying and dividing comes before all adding or subtraction. So we have to do 12 divided by 3 first and get 4, and 4 plus 9 is 13. That means you have to do your division over here first. If you're thinking left to right is only for breaking ties, and there's no tie here. Multiplying and dividing always come first before adding or subtracting. So both 3 and 4 have the same answer. Very similar to yesterday's warm-up where one side and the other side had the same answer, right? I'm trying to make sure you see these patterns. So we're going to be doing this with algebra. So 4x is 4 times whatever x is, right? So 4 times negative 6 plus 7. And this one over here is 7 plus 4 times negative 6. So 4 times negative 6 is negative 24 plus positive 7. Well, let me just make sure I don't mess that up. We'll do a little borrowing, and I'm getting negative 17. If that one's negative 17, this one over here also better be negative 17, and it is. Right? This was a variable expression. Why? Because it had a letter, a variable in it. These up here were numerical expressions. We found the answers. That's called evaluating. Find the value. So which of these operations should be done first? Well, it's any of the ones that's not x, that's the times symbol. By times 2, division, and this is how we write division in algebra. That's 8 divided by 2. All of the red ones would be done before any subtracting of 9 or adding of 29. Okay. So we're making sure everyone knows the letters are called variables. You have to understand the vocabulary. There are questions on my tests when we get to tests about vocabulary. So x equals negative 8. So you put negative 8 where the variable x is, and then you evaluate it as normal. And if you owe $8 and owe $17, you would owe $25. X is still 8 here. Now let's see this. This is the opposite of x. So the opposite of negative 8 plus negative 5. So evaluate that, please. Well, the opposite of negative 8 is 8. Right? That's why I like saying that thing as the opposite of x. X is negative 8, so the opposite of that is 8, and 8 plus negative 5 is positive 3. That's how we write division. So that is another way of writing x, right? We could write x divided by 2, and we'll do that sometimes, but I would say rarely. Normally, we'd write division as x over 2. And so this is negative 8 over 2, or negative 8 divided by 2. One negative in the problem, one negative in the answer with division. So that is negative 4. You read that as negative 7 times x, or negative 7x is the way you'll say it in class. So negative 7 times negative 8. Two negatives, when you multiply or divide, make a positive, right? That's not a rule for adding or subtracting. Two negatives make a positive when you're multiplying or dividing. When you're multiplying or dividing, one negative in the problem, one negative in the answer. Okay, so we're going to do a bunch of problems right in a row. And I want to make sure that we know what the pattern here is. Now I'm going to get you started. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is 24. And 24 times 5 is, right, 120. So that's positive 120. So what are the next two? Well, this one has one negative in it, and it's negative 120. This one has two negatives in it. It goes to positive 120. Let's see how that pattern continues. Try those two. Well, with three negatives, I can tell you it goes back to negative 120. Now, you could go out and do the work if you want, but it does. 4 of them make positive 120. And 5 of them make negative 120. Right? Where else is it going to go? There's only two choices, positive or negative, in these problems. Now, I would like you to realize what the pattern is. It says it in the notes, right? If you have an odd number of negatives in the problem, doesn't matter how many numbers there are, it matters how many negative signs you see. If you have an odd number of negatives, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, the answer is going to be negative in a multiplying or dividing problem. If it has even amounts of negatives, 0 is even, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, the answer will always be a positive. Okay? So order of operations, right? PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally to some. All right, this is not a typo. We're just doing steps 3 and 4 here, right? And step 3 is do all your dividing and multiplying. Step 4 is do all your adding and subtracting. Order of operations, the order you do adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. That's why it's called that. So here you have 7 plus 8 times negative 6, right? So we saw this in the warm-up. What do you have to do first? Well, you have to do any dividing or multiplying first. So 8 times negative 6 is negative 48. 7 plus negative 48 is what? It is negative 41. 41 extra negatives. Try that one. So that's negative 3x minus 4. So we would do negative 3 times whatever x is minus 4. You have to do your multiplying first. So negative 3 times negative 6. 2 negatives, an even number of negatives, you get 18. 18 minus 4 is 14. That is x divided by 2 minus 10. You could say it is x over 2, but that's what it is. Right? You could write this as x divided by 2 minus 10 like that. Be the same thing. So x is negative 6 divided by 2 minus 10. So we have to do our division first. Negative 6 divided by 2, not because it's on the left, because all multiplying and dividing is done first. Negative 3 minus 10, same as adding the opposite, negative 3 plus negative 10. So that is negative 13. Right, so the only time you're doing left to right is to break ties. No other time. So let's see that here. So we're going to put 12 where x is. So we have 15 minus 12 plus 2. That's a tie between subtraction and adding. So what do you have to do? You have to do the 15 minus 12 first. 15 minus 12 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. Notice, if you try to do 12 plus 2 first, you get 14 and you get an answer of 1. It's wrong, also known as the wrong answer. Ties have to be broken left to right, but you don't do the entire problem left to right. You just break your ties left to right. So here's another tie. We have 28 minus 16 minus 12. So we have to do this one first. 28 minus 16 is, I think, 12. Yes, it is. And 12 minus 12 is 0. Now, so if you do it in a different order, you'll get a different answer. Now, what drives students crazy and what makes them make mistakes is there are times you can break these rules and get the right answer. And the fact is, right, if this was all addition, right, if this was all addition, right, you could do it in any order you want. There are times, like because of the commutative property is one time, there are other times as well where you break the rules, you still get the right answer. But why do you want to break the rules? Because, when you shouldn't. You get in the habit of doing them correctly. So this is 28 minus 2 times 14 minus 5. So what do you have to do first? You have to do 2 times 14 first. Now, when there's lots of steps, after I finish a step, I just finished step 3. I did all my multiplying or dividing, right? There's no other. And now I'm doing step 4. After I finish a step, I like to rewrite. It prevents mistakes. So 28 minus 28 is 0. 0 minus 5 is not 5. It is negative 5, right? Taking 5 from nothing, you're short 5. You're negative 5. X is still 14. So 14 divided by 2 plus 36 minus 3 times 14. Now, we have a tie here between this division and this multiplication. This is a perfect example of you could do those in either order and nothing would happen because they're not right next to each other. But I personally still do the one on the left first. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 3 times 14 is 42, if you don't know that. That's going to come up a lot this year, so you might want to memorize how to multiply, right? Because all of you have memorized through your 12 times table. Now that you're in 8th grade, we're going to do a lot of multiplying by 13, 14, and 15. You'll see that. So, there is step 3 done, all our multiplying and dividing. And now we're going to do our adding or subtracting. We have to break this tie left to right. 7 plus 36 is 43, I believe. 43 minus 42. 1 is the only correct answer. So this is 16 minus 2 times negative 5. All right, so we have to do this 2 times negative 5 first. All right. Now, again, you could deal with this minus sign, and that's a minus sign, not a negative symbol, a different way. But I'm going to do it this way. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. And this is 16 minus negative 10, which is the same as 16 plus 10, which is 26. Now you'll notice if you multiply negative 2 times negative 5 there, you also get positive 10, right? And you would get 16 plus 10. You get the same answer. That does work that way. So we have negative 4 times negative 5 minus 10 times negative 5 divided by 2. Negative 4 times negative 5, 20. 20 minus 10 times negative 5, negative 50, all right? And I've still not done, all right? So we've done our multiplying here. Yeah, and by the way, so this is like 10 times negative 5 divided by 2. So which one's on the left? The one on top is the same as being on the left. You should do that one first. It turns out it's not going to matter. Just because of technical reasons, this division will end up being last. So 10 divided times negative 5 is negative 50. Negative 50 divided by 2 is negative 25. So we have 20 minus negative 25, same as 20 plus 25, which is 45. Okay, here's the reasons that the top gets done first, but it doesn't really matter. The top and bottom of a fraction have parentheses around them. Or we just don't write them. When you see this, there are actually parentheses there. If I wanted to rewrite that problem, I actually wouldn't write it as negative 12x divided by y, 12x divided by y. Technically, the way you rewrite that problem is negative 12x with parentheses around it divided by y with parentheses. That's the rule. Now, you don't have to write these in, but they are technically there. So negative 12 times negative 2 for x divided by 4. So you do the top first, negative 12 divided by negative 2, negative 12 times negative 2, 24. And now we're going to do the division here last. 24 divided by 4 is 6. Okay, we're going to do 2 more of those because this is something not every 7th grade teacher covers. All right, so, normally you do all your multiplying, dividing first. But these are like they're in parentheses. So you're going to do everything up top. You're going to do everything on the bottom. And then you're going to do this division last. And the reason is because it is like there's parentheses around both of those operations. So negative 13 plus negative 2 is negative 15. 4 minus 1 is 3. Negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. All right, so that's negative 8y, negative 8 times y, over negative 2 times x. That's not a multiplication symbol. That's the x, letter x, and that's the y. Negative 2 times x times y. So this is negative 8. X is still negative 2. Negative 2 times x again, negative 2 times 4. Whoops, y is not negative 2. Y is 4. Why didn't anyone say anything? All right, so there you go. So negative 8 times 4 is negative 32. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Negative 32 divided by 16, negative 2. Now there was a shortcut. Did anyone see it? Yeah, when you have fractions like this, you're allowed to just cross out those 4s. When you have a bunch of multiplication, the same number top and bottom of a fraction, 4 over 4 is 1. 1 times anything is the same thing, so it cancels out. So if you did that, you saved yourself a little work because you'd have negative 8 over positive 4, and you still get negative 2. All right, so here's today's practice. Do those 3 without my help. So we can multiply those in any order because it's commutative property, but I'll do the one on the left first. You get positive 6. 6 times negative 5, negative 30, right? That had 3 negatives, an odd amount of negatives. We better get a negative answer. All right, so that's the multiplication symbol. So look at that as opposed to my X symbol. I use the same fonts in every lesson, so it'll be the same. I rarely use the times symbol, but it was helpful here. So negative 1, so we have 4 negatives, right? So we know this answer is going to be positive, right? Because we have an even number of negative signs. So all I have to do is 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 4 is 8, 8 times 10 is 80, positive 80, an even number of negative signs. So negative 6 plus negative 30 divided by 2. Do our multiplication first. Negative, right? I did our multiplying up here. The negative 30 divided by 2 is negative 15, right? We don't want that next to each other, so we put parentheses. Negative 6 plus negative 15, negative 21. Final question. So we have 4 times 15, y is 15, over 2 plus negative 3, right? It's like there's parentheses around the numerator, so 4 times 15. Now, on your clock, right, 15 times 1 is right there. 15 times 2 is right there. 15 times 3 is right there. And 15 times 4 is right there. Helpful little hint. 4 times 15 is 60. 2 plus negative 3 is negative 1. So this is 60 divided by negative 1. Also known as negative 60. Thanks very much.